And we are back. Welcome to my channel, Get Legit LLC. And today we'll be doing our own insight into Love and Marriage Huntsville, Season 6, Episode 5. Let's get into it. As for those of you who don't know, this is not legal advice. It is my sunny Caribbean opinion on legal twists that I see, anyway, how I see it, to topics on social media, reality TV, current events, and just life in general. Please support my channel. Again, my disclaimer, this is our analysis. It is not legal opinion. It is not legal advice, and it is not intended to offend anyone, but it is Get Legit LLC's opinion, having reviewed relevant reports and different documents. But if we use any copyrighted material and you feel as though our use went beyond the Fair Use Act, please do communicate that with us so we could make the necessary amendments to our video. However, our use is fair use, and we're only using copyrighted materials, and we do cite our sources, but we're using the materials for educational purposes. So now let's get into it. But before we do, please like, comment, share, and do subscribe. My channel, it's growing slowly but surely. I'm trying to reach that 1,000 mark, just 1,000. Please support my channel. Yes, the beautiful Melody Shadi or Melody Holt, whichever one you prefer. I prefer Melody Shadi. Melody Shadi for me represents growth, represents peace, represents independence, represents just making it, the glow up after the blow up, if you know what I mean. I use these pictures because I find them to be inspirational pieces. They tend to show different sides of Melody. She is a beautiful woman. We see her, to my mind, she could be a model. And we see her modeling different wares in her collaboration with Jay Bolin. And we also see her on the stage performing. So she's multi-talented. I remember my daughter used to say when she grew up, she wants to be a triple threat. Well, I believe Melody has surpassed what it is to be a triple threat, because we've seen her wearing several hats. We've seen her walking in a New York Fashion Week. We've seen her collab, that the picture I have there with Jay Bolin. We've seen her acting in 2 movies. We've seen her skincare line. We've seen her on tour, opening the Obsession tour. We've seen her creating Sugar Mama skincare line, and we've seen her most importantly, creating Sugar Mama. Sugar Mama was born on Love and Marriage Huntsville, but not only that, she made her a brand, Sugar Mama. Imagine that. So we've seen her work ethics. We've seen her creating something from nothing. We've seen her talk about her preservation classes, her master classes, and she talked about educating over 650 people, which is impressive. And we've seen her collaboration with Van Dior. So I hope I have captured everything here, but at least I count 2, 4, 6, 8, at least 8 things that sprang to my mind as it relates to what she has been able to do post-divorce, and as a mother of not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4. And so for those of us who wants to do something in life, I think we could just look at Melody and get inspiration from her life. And as much as we see her go through some struggles when it comes to her ex-husband, we've also seen her overcome those struggles. And I think today's discussion of her is that overcoming, because even though I watched episode 5 of season 6, I find it to be very disturbing. I find it to be disturbing in the sense that it wasn't the first time we've seen her ex-husband, Martel, overstep. We saw him just appear at events where she would be. I think we were pleasantly surprised to see him at the amphitheater opening when he was there in the audience with the kids. And then he went backstage to have a conversation with her. That was welcoming. We've seen him at the end of, I believe it was season 4, where he showed up uninvited to her music release video, and totally off when it comes to dress code. And at that time, we saw the entire cast were there except him, And then we saw him showed up at the children's birthday party. And I know there's a lot of mixed views as it relates to what happened, but I think if you look at the timeline, you could appreciate the mindset men would have been in when he showed up at her private birthday party for their children. Okay, so let's get into it. So I asked myself the question, did he trespass when he just appeared there? I know it's a public place, a public skating rink. However, at that moment, at that time when he showed up, it was a private event and he was uninvited. So let me get into what is criminal trespass in Alabama, okay? So Alabama Code 1975, section 13A274, it says, the defendant is charged with criminal trespass in third degree, and it tells you now a person commits the crime of criminal trespass in the third degree if he or she knowingly, but means with knowledge, that's the mens rea, knowingly enters or remains unlawfully in or upon premises. And it says to convict, the state must prove beyond a reasonable doubt each of the following elements, and those elements are: 1, the defendant entered or remained unlawfully in or upon the premises, the property, and then you insert the property, and the defendant did so knowingly that he wasn't invited, all right? A person enters or remains unlawfully in or upon premises when he or she is not licensed, invited, or privileged to do so. So while it's a public place, at that moment when he entered uninvited, you could say he was trespassing at that moment. Hence, I believe the reason why he left, and Melody said, don't let me call the police on you. Could be, right? It continues to say a person who, regardless of his or her intent, enters or remains in or upon premises which are at the time open to the public, does so with license and privilege unless he or she defies a lawful order not to enter or remain personally communicated to him or her by the owner of such premises or other authorized person. Now here you have a public place being rented out for a private event, all right? And even if it's saying, because it's a public place, he would have entered with a license to go there because it's public. It's an invitation to the public to go. However, when Melody told him not to be there, you're not invited, and Melody, though she's not the owner of the premises, she is an authorized person by virtue of the fact that she rented that place for that period of time. And so you could argue and say that, yeah, he was trespassing at the time when he appeared there, uninvited, and he was told to leave. Now, if he didn't leave and they called the police, then that would have made it a criminal matter. However, thankfully, it seems as though he left, because we haven't heard about any criminal charges being filed. We haven't heard anything about police being called. So it's safe to say he left. So it goes on to say premises include any building and any real property. A building is any structure which may be entered and utilized by persons for business, public use, lodging, or the storage of goods, and includes any vehicle, aircraft, or watercraft used for the lodging of persons or carrying of business therein. So in Alabama, it's speaking as it relates to, I have Alaska here, this should be Alabama, however. It's talking to if you have a no trespassing sign, but that no trespassing doesn't apply here because really and truly that was an event taking place at a public place, but private event taking place there. So it's not like there is a house and you put a no trespassing sign for the public to see, for whomever trespass on that property to see. That is not the case here. The case here is a public space where you had this person going there, even though he was uninvited. But we've seen Martha made it a habit of going to places uninvited. It's like no big deal. I should go there. I belongs there. So I wanted to say that in most states, A court order, such as a protective order, can prohibit a person from entering the property, even property that the person owns. And under such circumstances, any entry into the property will be made without permission. For example, suppose a couple divorces and a marital home is awarded to the husband. The wife is ordered to stay away from the home. She could probably be charged with trespassing or burglary for going onto the property without his permission, even if her name is still on the mortgage or deed. So I put that there because even though we haven't heard that there is a protective order, protection order out, protecting Mel from him, just for those persons who might be in similar situations where you have a protective order, you're in the home, even though the home is not in your name, that you are still protected. And the person who is ordered not to go there still goes there, then yeah, that person is in breach of that protection order. It says here a court can order a restraining or protective order even while a couple is married or residing together. The order will likely direct one party to move out, which must happen as soon as the restrained party gets the order. A sheriff might even be there to make sure the person leaves. If the person goes back to the home, even if invited, the person commits trespass and violates the order. Remember, that order you get is an order from the court. It's not an order that for you to just break and willy-nilly, because then you comes in contempt of court, you breach an order. When you breach an order, that's very serious, very serious. And so I wanted to get into the discussion between Martin and Marceau. I found it very telling because if you listen closely, you would hear Martel saying basically that Melody would celebrate Thanksgiving before the actual Thanksgiving when the kids are with him, that she would celebrate Christmas and things like that on a different occasion. And we would see it. We would see her celebrating Christmas on New Year's Day. We would see her celebrating Thanksgiving a week before Thanksgiving because she knows she would not have the children the actual day of Thanksgiving. And I swear, but I heard Martel saying that he can't do that. He just can't do that. So what that means, what that is telling you is that if it's Christmas today and Melody has those children, he will be there at her house because he believes he should spend the actual day with the children, which is telling you that he does not intend to compromise. He has no intention of following the court's order because that's what he's saying on national TV, that he can't do that. And even though some of you might say, well, up until then, there wasn't a order from the court as it relates to custody. There was their agreement that they had agreed to. But the process that led to that agreement makes it is still a decree from the court. But I'll get into that later in the video. But I find it telling that he's saying this to Marceau, basically saying that he wants to be there with his children. He wants to celebrate him. And then he asked her, like, since when Melody and Tisha became besties or good friends. And I think what they played on was the fact that these people were having friction at Melody, and so he used that to his advantage. But now he's in the cold because he see that Melody and Tisha, they both matured and reach a stage where they don't have to agree all the time, but they can still be around each other and be amicable and not be friends, but be associates to that extent. I think that scares him. I think that worried him because in his mind it's like, oh, I'm losing these people that I would used to gang up on Mel. And so now he's kind of in the dark, like, when did that happen? But it happened. And I think oftentimes people tend to forget that you mature. You mature and you realize, look, we are doing business together. We're doing a show together. So we need to at least be able to shoot some scenes together. And it's not the bicker back and forth. So I think him appearing there has to do with that as well, because he sees where in his mind, Melody is winning back these people that he would use to kind of shun her and make it seem as though he's this good guy. I don't want to say it's a narcissist trait because really, I really don't know much about narcissists. I know people would say that a lot, but for me, it just tells you his personality. And if you look at the way he showed up at the event, he showed up at this children's party dressed like that in this gray with cap on and like a jersey, like he just came from the gym or somewhere. Normally he's dapper. Normally he's well dressed. Normally he's dressed for the occasion. He even went to Mel when he invited himself to Mel release party. He went there dressed up, even though he got the color coded wrong, but he was dressed for the occasion. But look at the way he dressed for these children party. He claims he went there to celebrate with them. First of all, he went uninvited. Then going on and uninvited, just walking like you're like he's the rooster among the hens and strutting. But you went there and you weren't even dressed for the occasion. That is telling. Whenever you see him put on that cap on his head, he's up to mischief. So he went there to act a fool. He didn't go there to celebrate with his children. For one, he didn't carry a cake. He didn't carry take balloons with him. He didn't take any gifts with him. He just walked in there to make a point. And I believe in violation of their settlement agreement that they have, because that settlement agreement would have gone before the court, and the court would have agreed and told them to abide by the terms of that settlement agreement. And even though it's a child's birthday and it fell within the time Melody would have had those children, which means he shouldn't have been there, which means why would Melody invite him? Which brings up to that point, why she invites him. We saw this man and his mother going on a destined vacation with Melody. And the last day of that vacation, we saw him talking about her. He plotted on the trip, the family vacation, to get back at his wife. I guess he saw the way she was balling out of control and living, and he wanted to know more about that. We saw, as he returned from that family vacation, quote unquote, family vacation, well, it was a family vacation. As he returned from vacation, he told Kosla something enough for her to get on social media, violate what she should appreciate as a nursing student, the HIPAA rules, and disclose Melody's medical condition. After that, he filed for custody of her children. And the only way you would file for custody of the children is basically he's saying this agreement that we have in place, it's not working, and it's not working because since this agreement was entered into, circumstances has changed drastically. Bear in mind that as much as you've heard other YouTubers reading what the judge had to say in that case, 50-50 remains the same. That is no accident. Despite what the judge said in that case, at the end of the day, nothing changed. However, the co-parenting aspect of it, they're trying to bring these two people to co-parent better. That's what changed. The answering phone calls, that whole dynamic between the mother and father, that's what changed. But in terms of taking those children from Melody and say, okay, you only get them on a supervised visitation, or that 50-50 is no longer in place, that never changed. And I believe when Melody said victory, what victory looks like for her might not be what victory looks like for us. And that's true. She's not paying child support, so he didn't get that. And if you look at those questions that the bloggers have been put out there that he asked through his attorney, who should have, to my mind, advised him properly. But anyway, they asked a slew of questions. Those questions, in my mind, all of them did not encompass the best interest of the children. So what was he trying to get at? Could it perhaps be that he just wanted to create a story for himself on this show and realize the only way I can do that, the more he talks about Mel, the more he deals with issues with Mel, that's where he gained his relevance, is to take her to court for custody? Because his discussion that he had at Marceau does not seem as though someone who wants to go through a custody case. Why is that? Could it be that he's wasting the court's time in a pretending way to seem as though he wants custody, but really and truly he doesn't want custody? He just wants to find out information on her. I know some people who will do things like that. They will bring a case before the court, not with the intent to get what it is they're seeking or on the face of it seeking, but to get information on the other party. And that very well could have been a tactic on Martel's behalf. He just wanted some information. And I think that is telling by the fact that the questions he was asking, those probing questions that he wanted the court to then ask Melody for him to have. I believe he wanted to use that information to slander her, to bring her in disrepute, and to have us, the viewers, think negatively of Melody. But I think in all that, what he seems to forget, him and Carlos King, they seem to forget, we watch the show. And even though it's edited, and even though there is only snippets we're getting, we're smart enough to figure out, if this is what you're showing us, I could just only imagine what really and truly happened, how terrible it was, how terrible it is. And so, to my mind, that was the whole rationale behind him seeking full custody. I believe that is why he appeared at the kids' party. I think production was wrong to do so to those innocent children at a day when those children are already dealing with the fact that mommy and daddy no longer lives together. We heard Tank when Tank said when they were at the park talking, and Tank was like, I just want you all to get back together. We listened to Malia when Malia said, we don't have those friends, the friends who have parents who are divorced. So you're taking children who come from an innocent background, an innocent niche and togetherness with mother and father, and then you're exposing them to the ugly side of when relationship ends, and then put it on national TV. These children who goes to a school, these children who have friends, who probably ridicule them, who probably bully them, and you think that's okay. While I will not sign any petition to remove Carla's King, I believe people are right to do what they feel is best to protect Mel and her children, because to my mind, this show does not seem as though that is its intention. You can show the friction between mother and father, but I think the buck stops when it comes to the children. And this day was the children's party for you to be there viewing. And when he shows up, and I'm sure production would have known, he would have tried to attend and make a scene, whatever that scene was. I think that is wrong when it comes to children. Even though you're not in court, I think when you operate and children are involved, it should always be the best interest of the children. And I think, Carla's King, if you and truly really like Mel or love Mel, as you would say you do, how could you love her and you try to abuse her children? Because the repercussion of all this, the ones who is hurting, are those children. So I think that foolishness needs to stop. I also wanted to say that what I already spoke as it relates to him telling Coleslaw Melody ailment. Remember when he went on his rant on Instagram, he kept talking about, he threatened to a certain extent that he was going to release revenge porn. How could you want to be chummy with someone who has that negative heart, that black heart? I think if you want to talk about black heart or soul, I think this is a person. He spoke at length about disparaging his ex-wife. He spoke about the ex-wife sleeping with this one and that one and people from his football team. He spoke about releasing revenge porn. He records his children and puts it out there what these children are saying. He records his children talking about their uncle, whom is like a father figure to them, whom those children love. We've seen all this. And then we have to see what happened at a children's party. And the part that baffles me is the fact that Melody told him you can have her at the end of the day. And he seemed to not think that later in the day is still the same day. It's crazy that he thinks Melody had to actually tell him it's the same day, it's still her birthday. Like if the night comes, it's still her birthday. It's weird, but it is what it is, and this is what we've had to deal with. This is what we, the public, have to see. And as much as I am reviewing episode 6, I'm not going to get into all that chatter between Stormy and her co-workers. I find that, to my mind, I find it quite silly, and I would not waste my time dealing with that, because no, $1 billion business, and those are the issues, and that's his staff. No, don't waste my time recapping that. I recap what I think is worth talking about. I wanted to say, because as it relates to Martha seeking the custody case, and as much as I don't appreciate the bloggers who find it entertaining to be reading and talking about, the best interest of the children does not require that. I know that America is one of the only country that never signed on to the Convention on the Rights of the Child, and I wish it would. I wish it would. Some of those things that happen shouldn't happen in family court, because at the end of the day, it's family you're dealing with. You're dealing with emotional issues. It's not just legal issues, it's emotions. You're dealing with children. Children's lives are being affected when family matters. And so, the blogger is talking about it as though it's entertainment. Oh, the judge said this about that, the judge said that. I don't think that was what should have happened. I think family matters should be in camera, and the document should not be out there in the public, because at the end of the day, the document is not about Melanie Martell. And I think we tend to forget that when you bring a matter before the court for children rights, whatever, it's not between the mother and father, it's those children. The court has nothing to do with mother and father. That's why you normally appoint a guardian ad litem who is there for the best interest of the children to make sure that is the forefront. And so, yes, some of the things that you would do as a mother, some of the things you would do as a father who are hurt, who is hurting, who would not talk to the other side. When the court is looking at it for the best interest of the child, the court will try to foster where mother and father are amicable and talking. But how could you be amicable with someone who seems intent to want to hurt that, to destroy you? It doesn't make sense. So I wanted to read this. It says, to change your custody terms, you need to file a petition to modify in the original county where the original custody case was decided. Alabama courts use the best interest of the child standard when making initial custody determinations. If you file a petition to modify custody, the judge will generally use something called the McClendon standard. According to this test, the non-custodial parent must show 1, that a material change in circumstances regarding custody has occurred since previous order, and 2, that it is materially in the child's best interest to make the custody change, and 3, that the benefits of the change in custody will more than balance out the intrinsic disruptive effects which might result from this change. Again, the 50-50 remains in place, which means Martha was not able to show these things. While the court tried its best to put things in place to ensure amicable co-parenting, the gravity of the custody wasn't affected. The children are on that 50-50. No maintenance was ordered. So I could see why Melody said it's victory for her. She looks at it as a victory, and what victory looks like for her might not be what victory looks like for us. I hope we reach a day where Melody and Martel can co-parent well for the sake of those children. However, I think if until Martel is being held accountable for his actions, that will not happen. Which is why I see him being on Love and Marriage, being on Housewives of Atlanta as a good thing, because I think being in one group, your constant group, telling you, cheering you on, making you feel as though what you're doing is right, is not a good thing at all times. So him being on Love and Marriage Huntsville, the only source of conversation, the only source of insight are Marceau, Maurice, and whomever else they discuss, Fletcher, whomever else they discuss, and Carlos King. That's limited. But when you branch out and you speak to other people, perhaps, and I think Kenya telling him he's a whatever piece of shit for cheating, and that once a cheater, always a cheater. I think her saying that, her holding him accountable for what he did on Love and Marriage Huntsville, on Housewives of Atlanta, I think perhaps is a step forward. And I think the more people let him realize you're wrong for what you're doing, and tell him that you're wrong. And since he's doing it on national TV, tell him on national TV he's wrong. I think perhaps then maybe then we're going to see some change. But until then, I wish him the best. I wish him the best with co-parenting, because at the end of the day, these children are hurting. These children are hurting. They don't live in a vacuum. They live in a world. They live in a world where there's social media, where there's technology, where friends can show them the videos that even if they're not seeing it at home, they live in an environment where people are seeing exactly what is a snippet, at least, of what is transpiring in their home, and it could not be a good thing. And so I wish them well. I just wanted to highlight some of the things that we've been able to see, because of part of the episode 5, we saw Melody having a meeting with her team, and I think that meeting it does with the team, we can appreciate that, because we've seen the fruits of those kind of meetings. We've seen Melody on tour, the Obsession tour. We've seen her doing her collab with Grandeur. We've seen her representing J Bowling styling. We've seen her preservation classes. We've seen her skincare line, and we see little Sugar Mama skincare line as well. Imagine that, a baby, and she has her line. So we've seen that, and I think unless you watch a show, unless you appreciate where she came from and the heartaches and what it took to be where she's at, you will not appreciate her and you will not like her. But if you've seen her journey and you appreciate that journey and you can be objective, you will like someone like Melody, and you will root for her and want to see the best for her, because in wanting to see the best for her, it means you want to see the best for those children. And I think all of us, as much as we blog and we talk about this show, I think all of us deep down want to see the best for those children. And really and truly, when it comes to reality TV, depending on whichever one we watch, I think Love and Marriage Huntsville is really one of them that gives us reality TV, because all of us in our own respective way can relate to what we're seeing on television, can relate to what we see Melody going through and those children going through. And so, to that, I just want to tell everyone thank you, thank you, thank you for subscribing to my channel. And if you haven't yet subscribed, please do subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to grow. And if you like the content, please do comment, share, and like so that we could be up there in the algorithms. And until the next Love and Marriage Huntsville hit, I will do another review then. But until then, that is it for today. Do enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you.